that this meeting has been duly called and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Governance Code, Chapter 551. We'll begin with roll call. Ms. Felicia Moody.
Here.
Mr. Serta.
Here.
Ms. Gomez.
Here.
Ms. Douglas.
Here.
Mr. Glovier.
Here.
Darrell Owens is here, and absent will be Ms. Maria Cruz Perez. Okay. And are there any anyone sign up for any comments on the agenda item? There is no one signed up for any comments on the agenda item. Thank you very much. In that case, we will then move to section 4, which is a public meeting on the budget and the proposed tax rate. Dr. G.
Ms. West will lead us through that.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, some of this information you've already seen, some of it has been tweaked a little bit as values came through and just looking over the budget even in more detail. But for the most part, you have seen most of this. Let me see. Okay, so just a few budget highlights. You'll find that I'm very conservative in my budgeting. I don't try to get too far out there with expectations just because I'd rather, I want to come in just right. Don't want to go too far or too little. So I'm very conservative. The ADA for the budget was based on previous year ADA, which is the it just left my, it's not the average daily attendance. Sorry, it left my brain. So I kept that the same. We'll just assume there until we get further in the year, and then we'll adjust that if needed. Also, the proposed adopted tax rate has been compressed, very, very minimal, but we'll get into that. We did have an increase in property values, which we discussed last time. You all approved a salary increases for all employees. We also did, when I first came here, after speaking with Dr. G and Ms. King, we did call TASB in, and we looked at a salary. They came in and did a salary study. So what they do is they compare it all to the market. Much of which Ms. King has done in previous years. This just gives an outside view of it. They look statewide. They break it down a little differently. So we had them come in and do that. We had the results, and so in this budget are some salary adjustments for market. So this will also help with retention, and it'll get certain, it actually affected 98 people. So it will align them better with the market. So, because a lot of times you hear, well, the pay's low compared to others, that type of thing. So this will help, this is the start to help adjust that and build off of what Ms. King and Dr. G have already been doing over the years. This is just one more step for that. So I think that will be that's a good thing. And then just, of course, overall inflation of expenditures. You know, all the bills are going up everywhere. So this is our enrollment, and this is as of today. So we're down 93 students from the end, and the 28-23, that is the last day of school for 23-24. That's where we ended. So you can see we're down about 93, although there are 34, we call it being in the queue, that are waiting to be processed. Some of them are still in Afghanistan and won't come back for a little while. Some of them are waiting to see a counselor to set up their schedules, because that takes time with each child to come in. Some they're waiting on shot records or paperwork. So there's 34 right now that are kind of hanging out there that we're trying to get information completed to bring them on board completely. So we are slowly creeping up, and hopefully after Labor Day we'll bounce back up to where we were last year. And y'all please stop me if you have any questions. I've looked at this a million times, so I don't want to fly through it.
Thank you for mentioning that, because I was trying to do quick math in my head with the differences from each elementary, but adding what was brought into JAA with first grade. So yeah, it looks like about 65 were short lower currently out of just those age groups. So that's good to know that about half are ones that you're already predicting to just.
Yeah, and
You're
we
waiting on
have, we
something.
also graduated a large class, and the incoming class is smaller, so
Yeah.
that's really where
A
a
little
big
bit
difference
different,
is. But they have processed, I told Dr. G today, they've processed over 500 new students to Kennedale, either brand new this year, or they had gone here previous years and are returning back. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
We just have to keep that momentum going.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so here is I'm not gonna touch this budget anymore unless you all disagree with any of it. So the 24-25 proposed budget, you can see for general operating, child nutrition, and debt service. There will be a deficit in general operating, which I think we all expected across the state of Texas. I wish they would do a poll to see how many districts have a surplus. I think it'd be very few. But I also added in the recapture, because that's not calculated in the revenue, but that is the money we have to pay back to the state because our values go up. Our 23-24 recapture amount was $94,000. So as values increase, that recapture is going to increase until our enrollment goes up even higher to offset that. But right now, that's where we are. And for the debt service, you'll see a net difference, in a surplus of $5 million. One thing that's on the agenda for Thursday night is for you all to pass a resolution to prepay bonds, which is part of the plan. So we talked about this the other day, that so we keep the rate at 38 cents, although we haven't drawn all those bond monies down. So we're taxing on money that we haven't really gotten yet, but we can use that extra money to prepay bonds off so
Yeah.
that we're in a better shape in the years to come.
And it's less interest that taxpayers would have to
Yes.
contribute towards.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
So right now, we're looking at the, for Thursday night, it's a prepayment of $4.4 million is what we will prepay. So what's left there is about $680,000, and that's mainly interest. So that will go into the fund balance. But that interest money also can pay for other items that's not covered under the bond outside of athletics. But other things that come up, like this year we used some of it for the sewer. The sewer had to be fixed at the high school. We used that money for that project. So it helps to take some pressure off the general operating when we have this extra money there.
Okay.
Questions?
Anybody have any questions?
Are you finished?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
I just
okay.
feel like I'm flying through it because I've been looking at it so much.
The salary budget, she said that affect the 98 people.
Yes.
Who are those? I don't need names, but like teachers, principals, central
So-
office, who?
Yes, so it was, it's professionals, it's not teachers, because the teacher salary scale was set.
Okay.
This is, I tell you, the bulk of them were auxiliary and paras. That was the bulk of them. And for example, when they do this market study, well, for one, they look at positions in the market, like technology position is a big one, that you look and see what's the market paying, and then we make adjustments for that. Another group that are those that are in the teacher pipeline, or not the teacher pipeline, that's the other program, but are in the teacher pathway. So our counselors, assistant principals, those people that came up through the teaching side, they take their salary and their years of experience, and they put them on or they take their years of experience, they put them on the teacher pay scale as if they were back in the classroom. And then they want them to be at least 2% above what they would make in the classroom. So it makes it worth it, you having the duties of an AP or principal, those added duties. So that was a big part of the adjustment, to make sure that all of those people were in line with being at least 2% above what they would make as a teacher.
Okay, so that 98 affects auxiliary staff, paras, principals, AP, counselor, and technology. So
Yes.
if, I'm asking because I want to know who these 98 people are.
And
I don't want a name. I'm not
Oh,
asking for a
okay.
name.
I
I just
have
want
the
a title.
list.
Okay.
I have the list.
Thank you.
And I can show you, because I counted them, and then I thought, oh, I should have counted like how many auxiliary. So custodian, child
Yes.
nutrition versus how many professional Yes, I can
Okay.
give you that breakdown tonight.
Custodians
I brought it
and
with
child
me.
nutrition, yeah.
Yes.
They need it, but I just want to know.
Yes, yeah, the biggest effect was I'll tell you, 2 pages of names and adjustments were custodial, child nutrition, and paras.
Okay.
1 page, not quite a full page, were professional, which was the counselors,
Counselors and
APs, principals, those people.
Very good.
Yeah, it was a good, it'll put us in a really good place for next year. Like I said, Ms. King's done a great job over the years. I don't know how she's done it alone. That's a lot of information to bring together and to put together. She's done a great job. This just gets us one step a little further.
That's good. Because usually the principals and APs are left out. So if we were able to help them, that's good.
Yes, and it didn't touch everybody, so it didn't
Well,
touch all principals,
But it affected,
but if they were already above that 2% where they should have been, then they didn't get touched. But if they weren't, then
Then
we
they got
brought
brought up
them,
to level.
yes.
Yeah.
very good.
Yes.
Thank you.
And it's good because we also looked at, okay, so let's say that Ms. Wells leaves, and we have to replace her. Well, we want to make sure we keep her because a new person coming in, normally it's more money, so we want to retain too,
Okay.
which will help in more than one way.
Thank you.
Okay, the proposed tax rate that you'll have to vote on Thursday night is the 7,552 from M&O and the 38 cents for INS. In the red, that just shows what last year's tax rates were. And of course, the M&O, we have nothing to do with. That was through the compression that the state mandates based on values. So we went down 0.002
So even
cents.
though we're gonna have to put out a statement that says our M&O, is
Yes.
increasing, our M&O actually went down, and so our total tax rate went down as well.
Yes.
I'll call your attention back to that in a minute.
And we're not quite at the floor, we're right above the floor. We didn't drop completely. And then, of course, the total taxable value, that went up about 121 million, and the tax collections went up about 852,000 based on those new values. And I can send this PowerPoint to you all. I try to make tweaks right up until the end, but I'll ask Ashley to send it to you all. So I added this slide in here for the tax rate adoption because a few years ago, they changed the way you have to adopt a tax rate, and certain language you have to have, certain language we have to have on the website. It is very confusing. In fact, I talked to a tax attorney today because I just wanted her to look over it one more time to have another set of eyes. And I said, why did they make this so difficult? And she said they were trying to make it for all taxing entities, and she said it is not a one-size-fits-all. But that was the purpose in all of this, so it's for all taxing entities, but it does not fit a school district. So the first line there, that will be the motion for Thursday night. And as he talked about, it says that we're effectively, and that's the big word, a 4.9% increase in the tax rate. That is compared to the no new revenue tax rate. So when you go through the calculations, it comes out and tells you, here's your no new revenue tax rate, meaning if everything stayed the same and you got no additional funding, your taxes stayed the same, here's the rate that you need to adopt. So our no new revenue rate is really $1.08. So, and they include M&O and INS in that. But what they don't take into account is any state aid, they don't take account in a recapture, because it is not a one-size-fits-all. To where municipalities don't have those extra things and school districts do. So that rate is, that motion is a little deceiving. And they have always, every webinar I've been in, they always say, you just need to focus on the word effectively. Effectively it is, because this used to be the effective tax rate. And then they changed the verbiage. So as you can see from here, our tax rate is not increasing by 4.9%, 4.96%.
It's actually decreased.
it's decreasing, but the verbiage is because it's based on that no new revenue rate.
Yeah, you mentioned the verbiage is a little bit confusing. I think it's a lot
Yes,
confusing.
And they do it on purpose. So.
Because it does look, anybody who sees, so here's, it's gonna say, oh, you increased by 4.96%. And that's something I think most people are gonna focus on. However, we'll have to make sure that we do, make that clear that the M&O rate that we have control over is being reduced. And, so we're not effectively increasing it ourselves. Well, I shouldn't use that word, they're using that word.
right.
But we're not actually increasing our tax rate.
Yeah, it's very confusing, very confusing. And the other statement that has to be on the resolution and on our website is at the bottom, that this tax rate, the $1.13, will raise more taxes for maintenance and operations than last year's tax rate, which is true. 23-24 taxes were 14.8 million, and the 24-25 is 15.4. So that is a true statement. But our values go up, our tax rate did go down, but the values go up, there's gonna be some additional money. And again, this doesn't take into account recapture.
But the values are also supposed to be, by the TAD's action, should be frozen for this year.
Right,
Okay.
right. And don't ask too many questions about it. I always say, I am not a tax expert. They have had us become tax experts, and that is not my wheelhouse at all. This is on the compensatory funds. This is part of the education code. You have to, districts have, locked himself in. Districts have to budget the compensatory funds. This is for those kids at risk. I show the program intent codes. This is for like your tutorials, kids that are at risk, DAEP, things like that are coded to this. So part of the education code is you have to actually budget these funds before you budget anything else. So I always add this slide just to show that here is the amount that is budgeted in these codes. So we have done that. And then the next page is, now this is only 24-25. So Thursday night, because we're doing some final adjustments on the 23-24 budget because payroll was just paid, so everything hits. So Thursday night, I think Mr. Owens had asked for a comparison of both years, so I'll have that there for Thursday night. This is strictly 24-25. So again, like I've shown before, our big thing is wanting to make sure that instruction is the highest budgeted item, which is good. We never want to get that off balance. And then again, no change in where you can see how much is spent on payroll, supplies, contracted services, those things. And again, I'll have the 23-24 comparison once I finalize all that tomorrow. And then this is, when I was talking to Dr. G, this is a quote they had on, I think it was a recruitment, and I think she was involved in Taffy, if I remember right. And she said this, and I thought that just stuck with me. So I'm using her quote from now on because I think that's good when a kid thinks that.
I have a question.
Yes.
Because of what the state is doing with all of this funding and, increasing numbers going down for school districts all over Texas, I know that a lot of districts are having to get really creative with trying to think of ways to have different revenue sources. I didn't know if you had thought of anything that might be helpful in that regard yet.
So the main thing we use for creative is our grants. So we seek there's a lot of grants out there.
Mm-hmm.
Some have strings attached, some do
Yeah.
not. So we have to be very careful with that.
Yeah.
But Ms. Dickens is our federal programs coordinator, and she, just like the other day, we had a grant, and she said, oh, I read this in the grant. What if we take a salary out of this, put it in this, then I can shift this over. It's just not manipulating, but you have to.
Shuffling.
Yes, yeah, to get the most bang for your buck.
Yeah.
So we are doing that in order to free up the general operating, utilize the grants to the full extent. And then also you can get indirect cost off grants that goes back into the general fund. So this year, we got a little over 300,000. Next year, because Esther's gone, we'll, in 24-25, we'll get a little over 100,000 in indirect cost, which goes back into the bottom line of the general operating, which is a nice,
Yeah, bonus.
a nice little help. So you kind of working that way. I know someone brought a grant today for tennis, and they were saying, can we apply for this? And I read through it, and I'm like, yes. I mean, it was $1,000, but I thought that
No,
that
every
may
little
buy
bit
you
helps.
that may buy
Yeah.
you new uniforms
Yeah.
or shirts or something. So, yes, I am open to anything creative, especially in these times.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bake sales?
I'm sorry,
Bake sales?
maybe. We may start a car wash out in the admin parking lot. I don't
There
know.
we go.
More mattresses.
And of course, the foundation, here's a plug for the foundation for September the 7th, because the more they can raise and give grants, the less comes out of the budget for when a teacher wants something innovative. So a little shameless plug.
All right.
That's all I have. If y'all don't have any
Does that
questions.
conclude the presentation?
It does.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. West.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'll have the 23-24 included in Thursdays.
Okay. All right. thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Well, I guess it's only now we open the floor to anyone that's here that wanted to make any comments on the budget. And I do not see anyone here to make any comments on the budget. Okay? All right. Well, thank you everyone for that. Okay, so we'll now move into, we're gonna have a closed session. And that will be, so we'll go into closed session per Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.074. And current time is 6:23. So we will end the open session at 6:20, well, now 6:24. And we'll go into closed session. Ready. Coming out of closed session at 6:42 PM. Okay, Dr. G, let's see, let me get back to my deal here. Okay, we now go into 5A, superintendent's evaluation. Okay, and Dr. G, we have completed the evaluation, wanted to notify you of the results. Okay, your cumulative evaluation on a scale of 1 to 3 came out to be 2.09, as given to you by the KISD School Board on the date of 8/27/2024. All the comments that were made by the board members will be forwarded to you. Okay, and you have any questions about us doing that? Okay, great, awesome. All right. So that will conclude section 5A, and we're now into section 6, which is actions on closed session items. So do we need to go into closed session for that? Do you have anything in closed session we need to cover?
I believe we'll be
We are going to,
postponed.
okay, we're going to postpone,
So-
excuse me.
Mr. President, I move to postpone
Thank you.
6 to the regular meeting on August 29th at 6 PM.
There's a motion by Mr. Glover and second by Ms. Douglas that we move action item 6 to the regular session on this coming Thursday, which will be 8/29. All in favor of said motion, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion passes unanimous. All right, and we go to number 7. Mr. Serta.
Mr. President, I move that we get up the hell out of here.
Meeting adjourned.